Since the Premier League announced that it was charging Manchester City with breaking more than 100 of its financial fair play rules, we have wondered why now. History has recorded what happens when sports governing bodies have a high tolerance for rule breaking. The story of Manchester City and the Premier League is and will become another salutary lesson for posterity. The governing bodies for athletics, cycling and baseball struggled to deal with their doping problem, and history has recorded that the damage from high tolerance for rule breaking lasts for decades, and much longer than the tainted performance periods. There is no denying the fact that at the time, Lance Armstrong's record-breaking performances drew global audience to the sport. As did the record-breaking performances induced by the competition between Ben Johnson and Carl Lewis. So also did the record-breaking performances by various baseball superstars like A-Rod and others. However, while those record-breaking performances from rule breakers may have raised the sport's profile at the time, the damage to the sport's public image has persisted till this day. At some point or the other, a sports governing body is forced to address the much-delayed sanction of the open rule breaking, to the detriment of the sports and the rule breakers. F1 is in the eye of this storm, with its ill-fated efforts to gaslight the public rule breaking on which Red Bull and Max Verstappen's victory in Abu Dhabi in 2021 rests, and the subsequent efforts to double down in 2022. Coincidentally, Abu Dhabi is again at the center of the rule breaking that the Premier League have charged Manchester City with. It is an open secret that following its takeover by the Abu Dhabi United Group, City have enjoyed a meteoric rise in status, akin to those of Lance Armstrong, Ben Johnson and Max Verstappen. City went from poor to mega-rich neighbor, with the Abu Dhabi takeover and started a record-breaking domination of English football. After not having won anything since the 1960s, 3 years after the takeover, City won the FA Cup and the Premiership the following year. Other league titles swiftly followed in 2014, 2018, 2019, 2021 and 2022, with City setting record after record. Big-name stars, demanding big wage packets, started flocking to the club, following the takeover. City stand accused by the Premier League of inflating its commercial and sponsorship revenue from 2009 to 2018 in order to circumvent the financial fair play rules, so they could pay the big wages. It is rather obvious that a mid to low-level club like City was before the takeover did not have the pedigree, rich history of success and worldwide fan base to attract the type of commercial revenue and sponsorship that could pay the type of wages that City was paying to its megastars. So, what has taken the Premier League so long to complete its investigation and charge City? A simple review of Manchester City's digital footprints, from the time of the Abu Dhabi takeover to date, points to the obvious manipulation of its commercial and sponsorship revenue. In much the same way as the change in Ben Johnson's physique pointed to his drug-enhanced performances. In the same vein, the obvious rule-breaking by Michael Marcy in Abu Dhabi, in 2021, pointed to the obvious manipulation of the results. The post-race rewriting of the Monaco 2022 pit lane exit rules and the toothless sanctions for breaching the cost cap rules are just two of the obvious red flags that F1 was turning itself inside out to gaslight Max Verstappen's credentials as a world champion. Before the takeover, City's official website was www.mcfc.co.uk, a clear indication of its provincial outlook and limited global exposure. Its sponsors at that time were a random group of unaffiliated entities, with different reasons for wanting to associate with a football club. However, the sponsorship profile changed dramatically by the end of the year following the takeover and when the Premier League investigation began. The main sponsors were quite clearly the Abu Dhabi affiliated Etihad Airways and Etisalat, the mobile telecommunications company. By the end of 2010, the number of Abu Dhabi affiliates had doubled. By 2012, it was clear that the main sponsors were Abu Dhabi affiliated. In 2016, City moved its official website from the provincial.co.uk domain name to the global.com address. Currently, City now has an extended list of sponsors, but still dominated by Abu Dhabi affiliates. So, it was plain to see that City's commercial and sponsorship revenues were being induced and controlled by Abu Dhabi. The Premier League is now in the position where they are as much in the dock as City. If the punishment does not fit the crime, then they will be viewed in the same light as F1 and Verstappen, and might as well not have bothered to bring the charge. For the punishment to fit the crime, as was the case with Lance Armstrong and Ben Johnson, then the Premier League will have to strip City of all the plaudits won unfairly. F1, Max Verstappen and Red Bull take note.